All right, we have Greg Rempe from Barbecue Central on the air with us right now. Greg, welcome to Broad Topics.
Laura, how are you? Yeah! Great to be back on Broad Topics. And from what I understand, a gaggle of new broads since the last time I talked.
We have some new broads and some old broads.
Oh, wait,
I represent old broads.
Is Joan still there?
I am still here. Thank you for remembering me,
Joan,
Greg.
God, I love Joan the most. No offense, Laura.
What the heck, Greg Rempe? Laura.
Just kidding.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, no, you're not.
Stacey Lewis is one of our newer hosts. You want to say hi to Stacey?
Hi, Stacey.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Good.
I'm
How are
new
you?
School.
Yes, new school. That's right.
And Kelly Lohman is actually back. She's been away from the show for about a year, but she is back guest hosting tonight. So you have 3 of the 4 original broads.
This is one of the most awesome things that has ever happened because I have a bunch of people listening right now. When the last time I believe that I talked to Broad Topics, Kelly Lohman was going away on hiatus. She hated the show. She was leaving on terrible terms. Yeah. And now you're back. I'm so happy. What happened?
Well, I heard you were going to be on the show, Greg, and
hey.
I just couldn't stay away.
All right. Well, I'll take it for what it is.
Greg, just so you know, if anyone out there has listened to Broad Topics, at the beginning, every single episode, we shout out to you in a spectacular way. And at some point in my life, I'm going to do an edited version of it just for you to play on your show.
We do, Greg.
All the amazing segues that have been made in your name.
I was going to say, I listened to the show, and my favorite part, aside from your great dialogue between all 4 of you, is how you're somehow going to turn how you're introing the show's topic into me injecting some type of pork or beef or something.
That's our favorite way to do it.
I love it.
You know, Greg, we were just talking about our 4th of July plans, and I was the only one who even attempted any grilling, and I went sour, sadly sour. So would you please help tell us, first of all, what's the difference again between barbecuing and grilling? I know your entire audience is probably falling over on their backs right now.
No, I mean, the basics of the whole thing, and we could talk for hours on end about differences, but the very bottom line is this. Grilling is done, is probably what 95% of the people do during 4th of July or when they're getting together to do a barbecue. And it's done at high heat, so we're looking at 400 degrees, 450 degrees and above, because there are contraptions that can go higher than that. And basically what happens is you have the heat source right underneath the grill grate, and then you have the meat on top of it, whether it's your burgers or your steaks or your chicken or whatever the case may be. This is done, let's say, at a maximum 15 to maybe 20 minutes, depending on what you're cooking. So that's grilling in a very small nutshell. And then barbecuing is done at much lower temperatures. So you're looking at 200 degrees to maybe 250 to 275 degrees. One of the biggest differences is the fact that the heat source has now moved from where it is directly underneath the meat to something offset, or there's some type of apparatus above it to diffuse the heat directly, like a water pan or something of that nature. And it's done with wood smoke. You want to impart wood smoke flavor done with bigger cuts of meat. So perhaps you've heard of brisket. Perhaps you've heard of pork butt, ribs, whole chickens. So these things, you know, at the most expedient part of barbecue, you're looking at chicken. That could be 2 hours. And then you're looking at 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours for ribs. And you're looking at like 2 hours a pound for pork butts. Those are typically 7, 8 pounds, so it's 16, 18 hours there, and then pound or hour and a half per pound for brisket. And depending on what kind of a cut you're there, that could be another 15-hour affair. So it's more of a labor of love, but the word I love the most when talking about barbecue is succulence, and the journey and the reward that you get for putting all that hard work in is hardly comparable to anything else.
Greg, it's Laura. I just want to say that the best part of what you just said was the way in which you spat out the word barbecuing when people call what they're doing a barbecue.
It seems to be a universal term. Oh, what are we going to do today, ladies? Well, we're going to have a barbecue and this and that, but it's fine. You want to interchange the terms, but I'm trying to disseminate proper information, so now you are all now being indoctrinated into Centralites. So now you can talk to your friends and neighbors, and when they say, hey, barbecue, you can not only say, well, you're incorrect, sir, or madam, and then you can really bowl them over with all of this great information I have armed you with.
Oh, I like how that sounds.
Well, Greg, that's what, this is Joan again. I was thinking that very thing when you were going into your delicious description of the 2 different types of grilling versus barbecuing, and how many ignorant people out there just throw that term around, barbecue, like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, really.
Just drives me crazy now that I know the truth.
It's willy-nilly. These people just throwing terms around like it's reckless abandon. I don't understand it myself.
So, Greg, this is Stacey. So how do I invite someone to a griller? I mean, come on, we're having a griller. What would I say? Help me, because I'm going to have one pretty soon.
Well, of course, the proper term is going to be cookout.
A cookout.
That's what you say.
Yeah.
A cookout. You're right.
My uncle used to say, I'm just going to throw some bleep on the grill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
cookout.
what he used to say.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you interchange that with even if you're going to have a barbecue?
Well, if you're barbecuing, then you can say, yes, I'm having a barbecue. For instance, last Wednesday, I had 2 days off, Wednesday, Thursday. And I smoked pork butts for pulled pork. So I had people over. I said, I'm having a barbecue. And I took those butts and I put some Worcestershire sauce on top, and I rubbed my butts really nice and firmly. And then
Tell me more.
And then I injected my butts with some special injection. And when it was all said and done, 14 hours later, because I love to take time with the butts, they were just, you put your hand on top of it and it just mushes apart, and it's fabulous and succulent and juicy, and you don't even need sauce, because a lot of people think that barbecue somehow is in a term of relation with sauce, and it has nothing to do with sauce either. And if you do it right, you don't need to cover it up anything. You get the pork flavor, the chicken flavor, the beef flavor in your mouth, and that's really all that it's about.
Our resident vegetarian, Kelly Lohman, has been shaking her head during that whole descriptive process.
What made you more uncomfortable,
yeah.
Kelly? The discussion of the meat part or the almost pornographic description of the pork butt?
Of the pork butt.
Well, I have to say the butt jokes never get old, and I appreciate them every time Greg makes them.
Well,
And for those of you Broad Topics listeners, that's one of the very many reasons to tune into Greg's show.
Kelly, here's the
is
problem.
butt discussion.
I am a man, of course, and most of my Centralites are men, although we do have some Central ladies. But when I start talking about the inner workings of barbecue, especially some of the competitors on the circuit, you have two grown men talking about injecting butts and rubbing thighs and this and that, and it could become, if you jumped into the show not knowing what it was about, you think you've turned into some type of homoerotic program, and it's just it's part and parcel of barbecue. You can't get around it.
It sounds
it.
pretty good. Hey, Greg, it's Laura again. I was just wondering, when you go to the park, right, and you see all those amateurs, quote unquote, barbecuing, and you look upon them with disdain, what are some of the big mistakes that they make, do you think?
Well, let's get something straight out in the open. I am not as much as I'll sit here and talk about the intricacies of barbecue versus grilling and this cooker versus that cooker. I'm not a snob. I'm not going to come over to your house and judge you by what you're doing if you don't ask me for help or anything like that. I'll eat and I'll make it seem like I'm enjoying it just fine, and then I'll go home and talk shit about you behind your back all day long. But look, I think when we're talking about grilling, some of the biggest mistakes that are made are these that I'll list off. First of all, people don't take care of their particular grill. This is an investment that you've put money in. I could tell you how to buy a grill, but even if it's a $200 grill that you get at Target or Walmart, you want it to last a certain period of time. So you want to take care of it. You want to maintain it properly. And that's obviously all going to depend on how much you're cooking on it. If you're like me and you're outside 5-6 times a week cooking on it, you're going to want to clean it a little bit more often than maybe once a year for the people that do it a few times on the weekend when it's warm out. Of course, I live in Cleveland, so I do actually have a winter, not like L.A. where I would just be out there all the time. But you want to take the grill grate off. You want to clean out the flavorizer bars or the grease deflectors. You want to clean out the burners. You want to clean out the fire boxes underneath there so things don't catch on fire or things start to corrode or rust out. Take care of it. And then you want to, every time, preheat the grill as hot as it's going to go before you put anything on it. Preheat it as hot as it's going to go, and then take a grill brush. Grill grate, wipe that off. Good grill hygiene equals healthy grill. No cancer that, we talk about cancer and grilling now. All of a sudden that's BS to a certain degree. But if you start with a nice, fresh, clean grill, everything is going to come off nice and tasty.